Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this episode, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland and Disneyland history with mementos, snapshots, and postcards sent from Disneyland from 1955 to the present. Today I'm starting off by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join and receive mail from my desk or from my Disneyland trips. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the e-ticket patrons Tania, Eric Daniels, Joe Gamble, Scott Booker, Monica Seitz Vega, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, Scott Cagle, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Grace Coate, Brian Crawford, Ben and Noel Bruning, Patty Wolin, Angela Reynolds, Greg Gorley, and Aaron Moran. B-ticket patrons Jeff and Paige Orton, and Joshua, and Exorable Tosh Bell. And the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Maggie and Henry Byers, Angel DeBlois, and the All Aboard podcast. You can also sign up for my new newsletter for a chance to get some postcards delivered by the USPS to your mailbox. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has the E.P. Ripley railroad engine pulling guests into Main Street Station. If you look closely, you can see the very top of the Opera House. On the back it reads, Entrance to Disneyland, Santa Fe Disneyland Railroad showing Mickey Mouse emblem. It's postmarked October 1st, 1957, with a North Hollywood Pray for Peace cancel and no postage stamp. I assume they visited the park on Monday, September 30th, 1957, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The weather was a high of 85 and a low of 56. Park attendance that day was 2,933. It's addressed to Miss Bartlow of Napa, California. It reads, Dear Grandmother, we got down here safe and sound. We went to Disneyland Monday, and we went to the zoo Sunday, with Sally and Hi, and we are going to Mexico tomorrow. I think we will come home Thursday. We had a ride on this train, and just about everything else. Sally and Hi and family are fine. See you next week sometime. Love, Mary, and all. I chose 2 October 1957 postcards for today's episode because of a special celebration happening in Anaheim this week. Toastmasters International is holding their annual conference and international speech competition at the Anaheim Convention Center. This marks their 100-year anniversary, just 1 year after the Disney 100 celebration. I have a copy of the October 1957 issue of The Toastmaster, the monthly magazine for the organization at the time. On the cover of the magazine is Mickey Mouse wearing a tuxedo, with papers, a pitcher of water, a glass, and a gavel in front of him. Inside the magazine is an article titled, They Speak a Universal Language, a study of Walt Disney's animation arts by Jack Youngmeyer. Jack was a staff writer for the Walt Disney Company from 1946 through 1958. The article highlights Disney animation and how characters communicate with gestures, body language, and facial expressions, mentioning even characters who are not talking still display nonverbal communication. The article goes on to praise Walt as a persuasive speaker and uses his appearances on the Disneyland television show as an example. Great news, Enfield Post is back up on Etsy. Grabbing some vintage stamps is a great way to plus your mail, whether you're trying to match the color of your postcard or envelope, or adding a themed stamp to the back of your mail. Be sure to check out Enfield Post. You can head over to EnfieldPost.com and explore all the different vintage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and EnfieldPost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has the loading dock of the Jungle Cruise. You can see the Mekong Maiden coming in to drop off guests after riding the attraction. On the back it reads, The Explorer's Boat. The Explorer's Boat in Adventureland nears dangerous waters as lifelike crocodiles approach and hippos lurk around the bend in Disneyland's Rivers of the World. It's postmarked October 9th, 1957, with a Redlands cancel and a 2-cent Jefferson postage stamp, Scott number 1033. I assume they visited the park on Monday, October 7th, 1957, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The weather was a high of 76 and a low of 49. Park attendance that day was 3,105. It's addressed to Master David DeBolt of Flint, Michigan. It reads, Redlands, 10/8/57. Hello, David. When you come out to visit us, we will take you to Disneyland. You will love it. Lovingly, Sally and Clara. Before we get into the history of Toastmasters, I pulled an answer to what is Toastmasters from their website. Toastmasters International is a nonprofit educational organization that builds confidence and teaches public speaking skills through a worldwide network of clubs that meet online and in person. In a supportive community or corporate environment, members prepare and deliver speeches, respond to impromptu questions, and give and receive constructive feedback. It is through this regular practice that members are empowered to meet personal and professional communication goals. The history of Toastmasters starts back in 1905 in Bloomington, Illinois, when Ralph Smedley, a YMCA education director, wanted to offer more programming to help improve public speaking skills. This speech club was simply called Toastmasters Club and closed once Ralph moved to California for another job. In 1924, Ralph started a new club with 24 members in the basement of a YMCA in Santa Ana. This building is less than 7 miles away from Disneyland, although in 1924, Disneyland was just orange groves. The club became popular enough to start a second club in Anaheim. As it grew, Ralph wrote 2 books, a manual of instructions, and 10 lessons in public speaking. In 1932, Toastmasters International was formed as a nonprofit organization, and by 1935, the first club chartered outside of North America. The organization continued to grow with interclub speech contests, regional meetings of clubs, and in 1962, Toastmasters was large enough to have a world headquarters built in Santa Ana. In 1974, the International Convention for Toastmasters was held in Anaheim for its 50th anniversary. As of now, there are over 270,000 members in over 14,000 clubs in 150 countries around the world. The world headquarters has moved to Inglewood, Colorado. This incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is an online craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. Be sure to check out Monday's ATD, which is usually hosted by paper artist Russ Romano. I've seen many amazing art projects, learned about awesome postmarks, postage stamp history, and a lot more on different episodes. It's great to stop in for an hour to watch someone craft or design something unique. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard has pencils in a diagonal line on a yellow background. One of the pencils is colored in to look like a standard number 2 pencil. It's postmarked August 9th, 2024, with a San Bernardino cancel and 3 postage stamps, a 30-cent American Schools Laying the Future Foundations postage stamp, an 8-cent PTA Parent-Teacher Association chalkboard postage stamp, and a yellow school bus additional ounce postage stamp, Scott numbers 1606, 1463, and 5741 respectively. It reads, Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. Einstein. Thank you so much for the postcard, Mojave Correspondence Club. This was a perfect card for this episode. One of the reasons for this week's theme is that I am a Toastmaster and have been one for 25 years. It's been a great way to improve my speaking and communication skills. I'm always happy to answer questions about being a Toastmaster or finding a club. While doing some researching for this episode, I did find 2 restricted clubs in Anaheim and Lake Buena Vista, Florida, exclusively for Disney cast members. I've often thought about starting a club for podcasters to connect and grow as presenters. If you're interested or have any questions, contact me and we can figure something out. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would be helpful to share your favorite episode to a friend or on social media. There are over 200 to choose from. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment at whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/SentFromDisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sent From Disneyland or on Twitter at Sent From Disney. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent From Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to its host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast.